Coming up in today's episode.
Those families have come to faith in Jesus since you told us to leave the area. And I was like, oh, dear Lord, I don't want to get involved in your plan. And then I'll just tell you, that man gave his life. He said, they said, some of the radicals came and got him, and they said his name, and they said, deny Jesus or you're going to die today. He said, I'll never deny Jesus. And they killed him for his faith. And then one of our other persecutors who had come to faith, and this other man had killed many Christians before he came to faith. When he heard...
Welcome to the iBIBLE podcast with Steve Cleary, brought to you by RevelationMedia.
Hi, this is Steve Cleary. Welcome to another episode of the iBIBLE podcast. It's been a while since I've been in the room, but we have a very special podcast today with my friend Peter. I'm only going to give his first name for security reasons. Today we're going to be talking about northern Nigeria. You've seen it in the news. Hopefully you've been praying for Christians there. Very, very, very tragic situations. Thank you, Peter, for taking the time to talk to us today about what's going on in northern Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Break it down for us. I mean, people think, you hear Nigeria, you hear, obviously there's not two countries, but we often refer to it as the northern section or part and the southern section. Yeah. And we know, of course, there's a lot of Christians in Nigeria, and it was, some people say, Christian nation, but very, very devastating things going on in the north to Christians. Can you unpack that for us?
Sure. It makes sense that people talk about northern Nigeria separately. So we ourselves are in northern Nigeria, right inside the 1040 window, which your listeners probably know about. But we have about 100 million Muslims right to our north. And so it's actually the fifth largest Muslim population in the world, but it's the first largest where we can legally share the gospel with them and not be kicked out of the country. So those other four nations, if you're sharing the gospel with the Muslim people, you could easily be kicked out. But we have the freedom to be able to share. So you can see why people talk about northern Nigeria almost like it's another country. And so because of that, we also have some terror groups. People have heard of Boko Haram. We have ISIS West Africa. One article said we might have up to 21 different Islamic terror groups in northern Nigeria. And so they don't like the spread of Christianity. Many of them are attacking Christians, killing pastors, burning down churches, and actually killing regular Christians. It's happening a lot, and it's been happening for some years.
I want to back up a little bit because you're right. Our listeners, I would assume all of them or most of them have heard of the 1040 window and obviously Islamic Muslim persecution. We don't think of Nigeria. You think Muslim and you think the Middle East, you think North Africa. We don't typically think Nigeria being a strong Muslim population. But you said there's 100 million Muslims in the northern part of Nigeria, or in the country as a whole?
In the country as a whole, there's more than 100 million, but right to our north in northern Nigeria, there's at least 100 million, maybe a little over 100 million, wow, which is a very, very large number. It gives us a great opportunity to be able to show and share Jesus with them, and sometimes they reject it, but we don't get kicked out of the country.
So what makes it unique is that the government is not Islamic. So when we think of Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Libya, you're thinking it's a Muslim government and a large Muslim population. And what's unique in northern Nigeria is it's a large Muslim population, but not a Muslim government.
That's correct. And sometimes there are actually Muslims that are in charge of the government. So when we went over in early 99, there was the end of a military dictatorship that was in control, and they were Muslim. And then after that, a Christian came in, and then a Muslim and a Christian back and forth.
I've seen that.
Kind of
back
like that,
forth.
yeah.
Now, but the challenge is not that there's 100 million Muslims in northern Nigeria, because, I mean, that just makes a great mission field. The challenge is, and what we're going to be talking about specifically, is the radicalized groups, the terrorists.
Correct.
The killing of Christians. I mean, I've heard Nigeria is pretty close to the top of the number of Christians that are being killed on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it's been happening for a long time. So, unfortunately, we and others would try and do what we could do, go to the government people we know. Sometimes even the government would say, yes, we're working on it, but then they would not really do anything. So the present government is doing more, actually, put pressure back upon them to put them onto the country of particular concern list.
Which they came off from under the Biden administration, right?
Which is correct.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the politics of this, but I know that we did a large petition drive. We were very, very concerned what was going on. We interviewed people that were being persecuted, and we were shocked that, whether you're, whatever party you're associated with, we were shocked that they were taken off that list, being at least a top 5 persecutor of Christians, and government not intervening. And so we did a large petition drive to try to get Blinken, who was in charge at the time, to put them back on the list, but he wouldn't. Has he officially put them back on the list?
He has, yeah. So that was also shocking to us, because once they had gone on that list some years ago, it puts the pressure on them. And so then the government will start to respond to these attacks because they know that they're being watched. And then they were taking off the list during the time of Biden. We're also not political. We stay out of politics, but it really was very harmful. And so the people in the Nigerian government at that time, they would just tell the Biden administration, these attacks are not happening, or it's just
literally denying it.
Yeah, denying it and saying, oh, it's a herder-farmer conflict only. It's not religious. And all that's part of it. It's definitely not all of it. It is definitely religious. And so now with the pressure, as President Trump has put it back onto the country of particular concern list, the Nigerian government, which has done a better job than the last one, but not good enough, they're really taking it seriously. And so we have some connections to the government, and they're like, whose fault is this? What is going on? And they're taking it really seriously. And you see that some of the girls that were recently taken in northern Nigeria are already they're getting them back already, which is so different from what happened in Chibok up in Borno State and in Yobe, Dapchi, where Leah Sharibu, a famous young girl, 14 years old, said, I will not forcibly become a Muslim. And they said that you'll be in captivity if you don't become a Muslim. And she said, I'll never become a Muslim. And at 14 years old, she's still in captivity today, 7 years later.
Oh, she's still in captivity.
She is still in captivity because she refused to forcibly become a Muslim. And she's actually one of my heroes. At the time when that happened, I heard that she was a member of one of the denominations that our mission had started there in Nigeria, a really good, excellent denomination. And I heard she was part of that, so I called the president of the denomination, about 12 million people. I said, hey, what are we doing for this girl's family? And he said, I don't know. I'll make some phone calls and let you know. He called me back and he said, we're not doing anything. And I said, that's terrible. And the government wasn't doing anything. The government didn't even go and visit the family after she was taken. Even the school, which were run by this, Muslim people, didn't go visit her. And so I said, we need to do something. So we got really involved to help the family and actually started a foundation in honor of this girl, Leah, to help women and girls in captivity. And she's still in captivity, but we know from others that have escaped or where their organization paid ransom to get her out. We know that she's alive. We know that, of course, terrible things were done to her. In the midst of that, she has 3 precious children that she loves very much, but she's still standing for Jesus.
She was probably forcibly married, right?
She was, unfortunately, yes.
Which is common practice.
Correct, and to numerous different guys. And but in the midst of that, these witnesses have said she's standing for Jesus, and she'll say to them, hey, don't ever give in to this other
Wow.
religion. Don't ever deny Jesus. Live for Jesus. And so she encourages them in the midst of everything that's happened to her.
That's amazing. And I'm glad you were able to do something to keep her story alive. There's been a lot of kidnappings, right? So they kidnap
a lot.
teenage, mostly girls,
Yes.
from what I understand, but
Yes.
not limited to girls. They've kidnapped boys
If it's
as
boys,
well.
then it's into being a child soldier.
Yeah, force them to be soldiers, and the other ones they
correct.
force to be wives
Correct.
and servants and
Yeah.
Muslim.
That's right. That's right.
And hundreds, right? Is it hundreds, thousands that
even
have been kidnapped?
even in the thousands.
In the thousands have
So
been
from
kidnapped.
Chibok, they took 276 girls. Some were released, some were killed. There's still 99 missing. In Dapchi, they took 110 girls. They did return them all except Leah, who refused to forced to become a Muslim.
You know, we saw this on the news, and it became international news when one of the kidnappings happened. I think it was 150 girls, and I think it was from a Christian school. But the news cycle is so short, right? And so the news cycle dies out, and then we don't hear anything about it. But this is going on a regular basis.
It is, but the good thing is that the government, because of this pressure that President Trump had put on them, has already worked to get most of those girls released. Whereas in Chibok and Dapchi, under that other government that's not in power anymore, they really did nothing, which emboldened the terrorists to do even more.
To continue doing it.
So you can see there is a real serious effort on the part of this government to stop these kinds of kidnappings.
And Peter, how long have you been working in northern Nigeria?
27 years.
27 years, wow. And with your wife?
Yes.
And you have grown children?
Yes. Yeah, we met at Dallas Seminary, and we're interested in unreached peoples and needy children. And so we're led to northern Nigeria. 2 of our kids were born in Dallas. 2 were born in Nigeria. All 4 grew up there and love the Lord and love Nigeria.
You know, Peter, we've talked about the fact that the government allows you to share Christ, plant churches, all normal Christian activities.
Yes.
But there's a lot of, so you don't have risk from the government, but there's a lot of risk from terrorists, from Muslim terrorists, because of what you're doing, correct?
Yeah, especially if we were to go into those areas now. It's Boko Haram is really marginalized to the northeast, far northeast, the border of Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. Lake Chad is there. They have a lot of water and fish and foliage and areas to hide, or they can go in and out of different countries. So they really like to be there. They used to come down to where we are, and actually we had several bombings in our town where they bombed churches, killed hundreds of people. One early Sunday morning, we were wakened to the shaking of our house. This was a few miles away, but it was even shaking our home. So they used to be much more active in Nigeria. They've really been pushed back. And then ISIS West Africa, northwest, sometimes northeast, and Boko Haram and ISIS fight, which is interesting.
So the Muslim factions are fighting among themselves.
That is correct, yeah. And so then what they did is they attacked any Christians near them, or still would, burn churches, kill pastors, kill Christians. And then interestingly, when there's no more Christians, if the Muslims of that area are peaceful, don't pay them or don't line up with their ideology, they'll even attack the Muslims as well.
So we've read a lot about church burnings. I mean, I think at one point it was been church burning almost every day.
Yeah, I mean, there's hundreds have been burned.
And sometimes with people inside them?
Sometimes, usually they could escape, but unfortunately one of the methods they use is burning people in their homes. So Christians standing for their faith could die that way. They could also be shot. They also, use machetes. I don't want to get into some gross specifics, but just very barbaric. A lot of times it would have been against the church, the pastor, or the men, but sometimes some groups of the terrorists will also kill women and children as well.
I've read some stats from when we were doing the petition that there were a lot of Christians being killed in Nigeria.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it was not a small number.
I mean, it's into the thousands.
Into the thousands.
Yeah.
And like over 1,000 every year.
Yeah, definitely.
and putting it, I mean, to me, in line with like what's going on in North Korea and other places. I mean, definitely, I don't know where some of the Human Rights Watch list or Religious Freedom Watch list, but I think Nigeria is definitely in the top 5, maybe in the top 3.
Yeah.
What you would consider? Where?
Yeah, definitely. And what happened was the last government that was in for 8 years, the person who ran the government was of a major tribe, an Islamic tribe, a warrior tribe, and really truthfully allowed those things to happen, which emboldened the terrorists to do even more. And they were saying, it's not happening, it's not happening. Well, now people know that it's happening, and this present government is not squashing the story. Back then, they would make people kind of stay silent about it. But now this government is allowing it to come out more. Obviously, President Trump is not satisfied with the way that Christians are being murdered. So it's been happening for many years. It's coming out now more. It's still bad, but it's actually not as bad right now as it had been a few years ago.
So that makes it interesting, right? Because a few years ago it was worse, but there was less press.
Correct.
Now there's more press.
Yes.
And the press is good. And we need to keep talking
Very
about
good.
it to put pressure.
Very good
on the
pressure.
government.
And we do know from some of our connections already, the Nigerian government is saying, what do we have to do to get off this list? And so I don't know but you have to stop allowing this to happen, which they are already making efforts, and then probably to work with, parts of our own military to go after the terror groups in a more serious manner. So really, it was allowing them to do what they want, letting them get away with it, which emboldened them. Now the government's coming against them, but has to do even more, which I think the U.S. is willing to help them with if they want it. But we're not involved in the politics.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has to stop. I mean, it's tragic, and it was, like you said, it wasn't in the press, which is just horrific. I have been to northern Nigeria. We did a short film there, and we recreated a scene where a small church, people were worshiping on a Sunday morning, and terrorists just came and opened fire through the windows. Because I say windows, they're not glass, they're just openings,
Correct.
right? And
Correct.
Kind of a typical church in the countryside, and maybe mud walls and openings in a tin roof or a thatch roof.
Correct.
And they just opened fire and killed a bunch of people. There was this 10-year-old girl who was orphaned, and her father died in her arms. And she just had a very heartwarming testimony that we had created a short video on. It was some years ago.
Yeah.
But even the village, another village where they had put up a marker, I mean, they had killed all the women and children in that village in the middle of the night. And like you said, we can't really talk about it now, but they did it with machetes, and it was just it was just horrific.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make the news.
Yeah, it has not made the news for years. It finally is, and that's the hardest thing for us. Like the reason we've been there 27 years, so strategic. The Nigerian people are so amazing. They're so wonderful. They love Jesus, and they need Jesus, and they depend on the Lord, and they pray all night long, and they're on their knees all the time, and the Lord comes through for them, and that's how they're able to make it. And then one other thing I'd like to say is that sometimes when we talk about this, because the terror groups are all Islamic, because they're doing bad things, somehow we tend to think that maybe the Muslim people are the enemy. They're not the enemy. They're precious people for whom Jesus died. They need Jesus. Many of them long for Jesus, but they're actually very afraid, because if they come to faith, they will be persecuted. They will be killed. Many of them will be killed. They'll lose everything. And so we've seen actually many of these Muslim people, even some doing the atrocities, have come to faith and their lives change. And many of them become like warriors for Jesus. They were like warriors for Satan. Their eyes were blinded. They can see, and they've become warriors for Jesus, even some of them unto death.
Yeah, someone told me once that a racehorse runs just as fast in either direction. And so when you bring a persecuted to Christ, they'll be just as passionate about
Amazing.
And like you said, it'll be just dangerous for them.
Yes.
More dangerous for any family member who converts.
Yes.
But let's move to that a little bit, Peter, because I know you're very involved in evangelism.
Yes.
And I know there's some things you probably can't say, which
true.
we respect on the podcast.
Yeah.
But tell us about what's going on, because your mission is to bring the love of Christ to the Muslims, including the persecutors.
Yeah, and so what's happened is there are many ways where the persecutors are getting the gospel. So something I didn't really know, I come from a more conservative background. Many of these people are seeing Jesus in dreams and visions. I didn't really know that happened, but it happens. It happens a lot. So we've been able to interview about 60 plus of these people that have seen Jesus in a dream or vision. Interestingly, Jesus doesn't lead them to himself. He'll tell them they're going the wrong way. He'll say, "Why are you persecuting my people?" He'll say, "Follow me." Sometimes he says he's Jesus. Sometimes they just know he's Jesus, even though they've never heard of him before. They know intuitively it's Jesus. And then they go and find a Christian that then leads them to the Lord, which is very interesting. It's like the Lord could use the rocks. The Lord could use whatever. He could use angels, but he chooses to use humans in this. I'm actually getting a little emotional right now. I'm a little emotional in my old age, but also when it comes to Jesus and these people coming to know the Lord. So it starts with dreams and visions. They go get a gospel witness. My best friend translated the Bible into the heart language of one of these major warrior tribes. And when they started hearing the scriptures in their heart language, they were so amazed. You mean God loves us? God would forgive us? In this one area, one of these chiefs, over hundreds and hundreds of people, they were testing the scriptures with him, and he was hearing about the love and forgiveness of the Lord. And he said to the translator, "Is this true?" And the translator said, "Is what true?" And he said, "Is it true that God loves us and that he would forgive us?" And he said, "It is true." And then the chief started to call to all his people. He said, "Come, come, everyone come." And he started calling them. They didn't know what was wrong, and they started coming. There was a large crowd, and he said, "I want to tell you something. God loves us, and God would forgive us in his son Jesus." This is the Muslim chief sharing this with his people. And then the translator started to share in the heart language of the people Jesus, and many of them came to faith, and many of them became leaders of the converts, and actually several of them ended up giving their lives because they had become warriors for Jesus.
Yeah, because they live in the same area.
Correct.
So they became they went from persecutor to persecuted.
That's right. Yeah.
You shared something interesting with me when we first met, is that a lot of the people doing the persecution don't want to, but they're forced to by the radicals.
Yeah, so in this situation, when someone would read on the internet or see in the news about some of the atrocities, it's a warrior tribe doing it, but a lot of times there's a smaller group of trained people, maybe 30 or 40, that have really good weapons. Maybe they were in the military or the mobile police. They'll come in and say, "We're going to attack this area," to the local people from that warrior tribe, and they'll say, "You need to join in with us." And if they refuse to join in with them, they might kill them. So there's a pressure upon the local peoples from this warrior tribe, even though they're peaceful, to join in, or they themselves become the victims. So what you have is maybe 30 well-trained, well-armed people with another 100 or 200 not well-trained, not armed people coming in doing the atrocities. Then eventually those 30 people will flee to another state or sometimes another country.
Oh, wow.
And then those local peoples are left to sometimes be retaliated against, and many times they didn't even want to be involved in it.
So they were forced. They didn't have hatred in their heart. They didn't want to do this, but it was do it or die.
That's right. And then sometimes there's some that they'll stir up because they're upset because their cattle were killed, or one of their children were killed, because they might have done something, so there's a retaliation from the Christians, and so maybe they're emotional and they're upset, and so maybe they do want to be a part of it, but a lot of times they don't want to be a part of it. And that's basically what happens is there's a small group of radicals. They will stir up another group that can get emotional, and then afterwards that group goes back and kind of says, "Why did we do that?" But then there's another group of peaceful people from that major religion, and and you cannot stir them up no matter what. They are peaceful.
Yeah. I know it was happening when I did some interviews in Indonesia. They would come in, 20, 30 would come in and go house to house and stir them up by either getting them angry or forcing them to help them. And they would turn them. And there you had Christians and Muslims living in the same villages.
Yes.
And they would turn them against the Christians in that village.
True.
And either force them or just rile them up.
And that happens a lot. We also have something else that happens, which is where some politicians, because they want there to be fighting between the Christians and Muslims, because they have their own kind of private jihad going on, they'll manipulate some of these tribal peoples. Many of the tribal peoples are not literate. And so these guys with money, they'll come in and tempt them or pressure them to cause problems because they think it keeps them in power. And I'll tell you another thing that's been great is since President Trump came in with this pressure, some of those politicians have fled Nigeria.
Have left.
They have fled and they have left Nigeria to the Middle East because they realized that people knew that they had been behind funding some of this and pressuring some of this, and they've left the country.
Well, good.
Very good.
And I've heard they literally paid people to
Correct.
Terrorize.
They do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So people are very poor, they're illiterate, so they'll pay you, they'll stir you up in the name of your religion or your tribe or what happened. And so you have these politicians, not all politicians, but some groups, some that have fled, as I mentioned. Sometimes even you'll have a situation, this might sound crazy, but if there's a known area where terror has happened and then the government legitimately wants to send military there to stop it, and the president's literally trying to stop it, depending on who's involved in the military, extra money is given, and some of those people in the military want the money for themselves. So sometimes they'll even be a part of causing the problem, so more money is given so that they can take some money. So there's also greed and corruption.
Yeah, layers of corruption.
There's layers, and it's actually a very complex situation. But we are legitimately seeing the government come out against all of this. And so the military officers that are bad, some are good, they're afraid. The politicians that are bad, they're afraid and are hitting the road. So this is the kind of good attention we've needed.
Yeah, well, I'm really hopeful and prayerful that it'll change, because I know there are so many Christians in Nigeria, so many people who love Jesus and so dedicated. Like you said, I've witnessed it firsthand. And I know when we do one of our projects, when we do some of our iBible episodes, Hausa, which is the major language of the North, right?
Yes.
Is our most active language on social media. And I never would have guessed. And when we look at the reports, it's like, Hausa, why is Hausa on top? Because they're poor. It's poorer than the South. They're facing all this persecution.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's Christians, if it's Seekers, if it's Muslims, but they're watching the real story of Jesus like crazy and telling us they're praying for salvation. And I was really shocked to see that.
That's very encouraging. So Hausa is considered a reached language, but it's only 3% or a little less reached, which means that I'm so encouraged to hear that, because most of those people don't know the Lord that are watching that.
They're considered,
and now they're coming to know the Lord.
Okay, now back up. I didn't know it was only 3% reached.
Correct.
I think Hausa is a major language.
It's 97% not reached.
In the North. Or the languages
the language itself. So I think Joshua Project could tell you, but there's 40-something million, and it's 97% don't know Jesus. So they're considered reached, but they're not very reached. So I can just tell you that's so encouraging that that's your highest viewership in that language. And it tells me that and we know they're hungry. They're hungry for Jesus. They long for Jesus, but they're afraid. And this is an amazing part of technology, because they can view it or they can hear it, but there's not a lot of others around to then attack or persecute them. So this is just fits. They long for Jesus, and they're getting Jesus through what you're doing.
Well, that's encouraging. We like to use social media. We like to use boots on the ground, which is why I was excited to start seeing what we could do with your ministry. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But just, I'm going to share some numbers and some things, but just to show how active it is. If I was to share the real story of Jesus in the U.S. on social media, which we do, but it's not an emphasis for us, it would cost me $1 of advertising and promotion and, to get things to go out virally, to get one person to watch the episode. I can do it in the Hausa language for 1 penny.
That's awesome.
So to show you, it's 100 times more efficient. That's about as cheap as it gets, as a penny or even sometimes half a penny to reach somebody and engage them with an iBible episode.
Incredible.
I want to talk about now. Are you going to let me say Fulani? Can we talk about Fulani?
Sure.
Okay. So I know we talked about warrior groups and stuff.
Yes.
I guess because I've known Fulani's fairly big, right?
Yeah.
It's
about 15 million.
15 million.
Yeah.
Within Fulani, it's mostly predominantly Muslim.
It's less than 1% reached. It's like 0.2% reached.
So it might be we can say it's 99%.
It is
Muslim.
It is.
It doesn't mean certainly doesn't mean they're all violent, but there are factions within Fulani that are violent, right? Yeah.
So to understand like where they're coming from, they are a warrior tribe. They brought Islam to Africa. They're acting as warriors. Their eyes are blinded. And like one of the guys who works with us, he would explain from his upbringing, they're warriors. They're tough. If he would cry, they will beat him until he stops crying.
Really?
Yes. And he's not allowed to get love from his father, for example, because that might make him weak. And when he's going to go out with his uncles to learn how to kill Christians, they're going to teach him how to do that. So you have to understand, because of this blinding and the way they're brought it up, they can't see what is the truth. And that's why when they get the truth, they become dynamic for Jesus. And I'll just give you this one story to illustrate this. He would say he was about 13 or 14 years old, doesn't know his age because they don't know their age. And they took him to a village and were killing people, and he was not into it. He did not enjoy that. But as they were doing this, and there was fire and flames and smoke, there was a woman sitting on a rock like a grandmother holding her little boy, and she was singing to Jesus. And
during the attack.
During the attack, and the terrorists had surrounded her, and he was with them, and he was shocked. How could this woman, in the midst of this, be singing to this Jesus? So in Islam, some of them know about Prophet Isa, they call him,
right.
But she's singing unto Jesus, and he was so amazed. And some of them were going to hurt her, and the leader of the terrorists said, "Don't touch her." He said, "Do not touch her. There's something about this woman and the way that she is singing to Jesus." And he said, "No one touch her." And then there was some gunfire from the nearby village. They were going to leave. And so he put this young 14-year-old and some of his men in charge of protecting this woman while they left. He said, "Go into that hut that's not burning, protect them, don't touch them." And then the woman was saying to them, "I forgive you for what you're doing." And he was like, how could this woman forgive us for what we're doing? And so then after that village, they came back, and then they left the woman with her grandson, and he left, and he was so impacted. Who is this woman? And then the next day, there were 2 men, and the terrorists killed one of the men, and the other one said, "I forgive you for what you're doing." And he said 2 days in a row, these people have the power to forgive even though we're killing them. And this is what started to sow the seeds of Jesus in his mind and heart. Then later he came to faith, and he's one of the ones who helped translate the Bible into their heart language.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a warrior tribe, you're talking about people that grow up being violent and killing. That you said they literally teach them how to kill Christians as teenagers.
That's right. So some of them. So not all of them. So just like in anyone else, even though they're a warrior tribe and that's their history, some of them are peaceful. Some do not grow up doing that, but a lot of them do. They're not allowed to have the love from their father, and they're not allowed to cry. They are taught how to kill.
Wow.
And so this is still a big part of their tribe.
That's going on today.
Yes.
And so this young man is now you see what happens when they come to Christ. And I know you shared other testimonies with me. So there's two things. One was very sad and one was very exciting. And so we'll talk about the sad one. Something that upsets me very much, and I apologize if it sounds like I'm going to get onto my soapbox, but I just may do that.
Yes.
Because we have this problem in the church, I say the church global, where we print Bibles for people who don't read that language.
Yeah.
So the Bible has been translated into the heart language of the Fulani. What's the language of the Fulani?
It's Fulfulde.
Fulfulde. But people don't read Fulfulde.
Many of them are illiterate, so they don't read the Bible. For the ones who can, that's wonderful, but unfortunately many can't. So if they have it in audio form, that's very effective. When they hear it or see it in their heart language, it completely changes their lives.
So, and I'm going to back up a little bit, and you're careful not to criticize because we want to see the Bible go to everybody and for those who can read it. But if the people are illiterate and if they do go to school, they're being taught Hausa, right? Unless it's a primary grade, they're not being taught their heart language in school, at least in public schools.
For the most part, that would be definitely true.
I mean, maybe in
Yes.
the primary grades because the government tries to keep these languages alive. But I've said many times, of the 7,159 languages of the world, only 351, about 5%, are taught in schools.
Yeah.
So people did print the Bible in the heart language of the Fulani.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's not as effective as it should be because it's God's word. But when they see and hear it, it greatly impacts them. So that is much more strategic for those tribes that cannot read.
Yeah. So we need the translation. Don't get me wrong there.
Yeah.
It's just not effective to print. I think you mentioned that print Bibles may be sitting in containers even today.
Yeah, and some of them move again, but in general, it's not the strategic way to go.
Yeah.
And some of the large translating organizations know that now, and they are much more involved in the oral translation, and
audio.
and promoting it through audio. Yeah.
So then, when you had the translations done, you put them in. Did you put them in audio?
No. So my best friend, who is a Bible translator, they put it into the audio, and it was first the testing of the scriptures, and then the scriptures themselves, together with evangelistic message, discipleship messages, and it is incredibly powerful. It's the most powerful way to reach these unreached peoples.
With the Word of God, you're bringing in audio.
Yes.
And you've seen many come to Christ?
I mean, we've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I mean, it's into the thousands. People wouldn't believe me, but it is. And there's so many effective things, but the most effective is when they get the scriptures in audio. If they can get it video, that's mixed with audio, but when they get it in audio, their heart's open to Jesus.
Yeah. So it makes, I just want to continue emphasizing that because unfortunately there's a lot more emphasis still on print than there is on audio. Even in these countries, you're a success story to show what happens when we do audio for people that cannot read. Maybe they were not taught that language in school, or maybe they're illiterate and didn't even go to school. Yeah. Then you mentioned adding it with visual. Peter, you've come to the right place. We love visual. And we do not have the real story of Jesus in the language of the Fulani. We actually said, let's get it done when I met you earlier, and so we're working on it. We don't have it done yet. And so you've seen what we're doing with tablets and the solar-powered tablets. We can take them anywhere.
Yeah.
We talked about providing them for you. How can they be helpful to you?
Well, they are, because when we're able to go, we used to do film to hundreds of people at a time, but the problem is some radicals can come, attack your team, attack the film equipment, attack the vehicles, or subtly they're there, and then as people are showing interest, they will then persecute those people. And so with the tablet, you can come to a compound, a family, like that chief who said, come, come, and maybe all of a sudden there's 30, 40, 50 people, but it's in a contained area. The tablet is large enough, people can hear it, it has a good enough speaker. All of a sudden, this whole group can see and hear the gospel in their heart language, can make decisions for Jesus without any radicals pressuring them.
So you currently have what you called film teams, right?
Yes.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Going around showing gospel films, Jesus film, I'm sure.
Correct.
The other challenge we see that we've been told, and I just heard this coming from Africa, was if you do a showing like this, you're inviting people out at night. And it can be very dangerous for them to get home. That's
correct. So we didn't used to have that problem, but through the attacks of the terrorists, it's a very good point. Before we would show film, and from many villages away, they would walk some miles to come for film.
Could be an hour,
because
right?
to them, this is so exciting. They don't have movie theaters. They could come for hours. But you're exactly right. Because of the problems, those problems will happen at night. And so they're much less likely to come out for the film shows because of that.
Or if they do, you're putting them at danger when they go home.
Definitely.
Because some are going to take the risk. A lot of them are going to take the risk, right? Because we know, even when we were about to do a night showing, which I had some concerns over because we were going to show the film at dusk, then there was some challenges with electrical equipment, and the screen getting set up right. That's getting darker and darker. And I'm like, I don't want all these families here to have to travel home. The area that we were in even was more of a risk for wild animals than it was for people. So there may be people that might find them as easy targets to steal from them on their way home. But we weren't in a violent area, but there may be, wild animals out at night, and you need to be in your boma. You need to be behind your wall of thorns, in your tent or in your hut, because you don't go out and play at night.
And that's these are all the reasons why the tablets are so much more effective. There are still places where we can show film to large groups where there's not a security threat or animals, but especially where we are in the north trying to reach the unreached, the tablets are extremely effective.
So we talked about sending you tablets, and we've committed to 30, and I want those listening and those watching to know we're excited for 2026. We need to get some of the heart languages on the tablets. And we're going to be providing, we've set an initial goal of 30, but how many could you use?
I mean, we could use several hundred. So we're a part of the largest indigenous mission in Africa. It's called EMS. That doesn't matter, but 700-800 indigenous Nigerian missionary couples trying to reach the unreached. Now, it doesn't mean all of them need a tablet, but strategic ones, coordinators. So we could use hundreds, but 30 would be awesome.
And they're going to use these, if not daily, at least multiple times every week.
They use them regularly and to large, so we say large, so anywhere from 10 to 50 people, because the screen is big enough and the audio is good enough.
50 will be tight, but we found when I was in the field, they want me to show it over and over because they have to keep switching. Because not enough people can watch it, and the problem is the kids. I don't want to say the problem is the kids because the opportunity is the kids, but they put their face so close to the tablet that nobody else can see, and it was almost comical because the adults kept literally pushing their heads to the side, and then it would bounce right back.
That's just where we have to control it. So good leadership. Because they are super effective, and you do want the kids to see it, but then the kids are in the front. Down low,
sit them down,
and we don't let them stand up and touch it and stuff just because
they will.
Everybody wants to. It's magical.
So they're not watching movies in their language.
No, they're not. They're not watching any movies, and so it's very interesting to them, very effective. When they see the characters speaking their language, they're amazed, and they're so drawn into it. And they're so into, and if there's anything about something bad happening to Jesus, they'll say, don't do that to Jesus. When he's suffering, they'll cry and weep. and he rises from the dead, they'll cheer. As I said, they long for the Lord. It's just this pressure and persecution that might happen to them. They will literally lose most everything.
That's, it's kind of, now I'm going to get emotional just thinking about the opportunity to reach northern Nigeria. And for those who read my emails, I was praying about what to do, because it was many years ago I was there, and I hear about the persecution, and people ask me, they said, are you going to write about northern Nigeria? And I'm like, not right now. And they would be like, why? I mean, all this persecution is going on in this tragic situation. I said, because I don't want to be an opportunistic. I don't want to just write about it because people are talking about it. I want to write about it because we're doing something.
Amen.
And I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any. So I'm talking about just months ago.
Yeah.
We didn't have any contacts
Yes.
in the north of Nigeria.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, Christopher Beth with the Bucket Ministry, we're on a call with him, and we're talking about how we're going to be helping him next year. And he's like, hey, could you send me some tablets for Nigeria?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're working in Nigeria? I mean, we're helping him in Kenya and other countries. I had no idea he was working in Nigeria. He says it's kind of a new work. It's a small work.
Yes.
They got 5 full-time workers, so it's like we immediately sent them 5 tablets, and I'm like, now we can put a pin in the map. We can say we're working in there, and then somebody writes to me from a local church and says they want me to meet a missionary, you, Peter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, of course, especially a local church. I want to meet what people are doing around the world. I'm always excited to hear about it. And then I find out that you're working in northern Nigeria.
Yeah.
And so that's 2 great opportunities God has given us in a matter of months of me mouthing a prayer.
It's the Lord's timing.
What can we do for North Nigeria? Because I don't want to talk about it if we're not doing something meaningful.
Yes.
And so I remember you saying that you may not be able to afford many tablets. I'm like, no, you don't understand. We're not taking your money.
Yeah.
Your money's not welcome here. Your money needs to go to what you're doing in the north of Nigeria. Our donors are generous. They'll provide the funds. We'll get the tablets made. I'm even going to make it part of our year-end appeal. We have a goal of doing at least a couple hundred tablets next year. We did a little over 100. It's only been a year since we launched the ministry of the tablets.
Yes.
But it has been amazing, and I'm glad you saw the vision quickly of what you could do with these. Because I think it's going to be more effective than you realize.
Well, I know it's going to be so effective because of how they respond to the audio and the visual. I know it's going to be amazing. And praise God for generous listeners and donors. They maybe don't want to come over and be with us in Nigeria, although it is a great place to visit, and we don't go to the places where the terrorists are active. You can't call it safe, but Jesus wasn't safe and the disciples weren't safe. But we still have visitors that come. It's a great place to visit, but they can be with us and a part of what we're doing in Nigeria by praying, by giving to provide a tablet, knowing that that's going to be something that these indigenous missionaries are going to use to reach these unreached with the gospel.
They are going to go to the areas, right?
Oh, the indigenous missionaries are.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they want to. As a matter of fact, when we say to the indigenous Nigerian missionaries, why don't you come out of the persecution? They say then who's going to reach the people?
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing. And from this warrior tribe, this one incredible evangelist that had come to faith, and I was telling you a little bit about him, but unfortunately he gave his life for the gospel. But the last time I saw him, and I had told him, I said, why didn't you come out of that persecution? Why didn't you come out of there for a while? And he said, who's going to reach my people? And the last time I saw him alive, he said, Peter. I said, yeah. And he started listing on his fingers, this family, 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 this family. He said, all of those families have come to faith in Jesus since you told us to leave the area. And I was like, oh, dear Lord, I don't want to get involved in your plan. And then I'll just tell you, that man gave his life. He said, they said, some of the radicals came and got him, and they said his name, and they said, deny Jesus or you're going to die today. He said, I'll never deny Jesus. And they killed him for his faith. And then one of our other persecutors who had come to faith, and this other man had killed many Christians before he came to faith. When he heard that they killed this other guy, he said, I'm going to go find them. And we're like, oh, are you going to go find them to kill them? And he said, no, I'm going to go find them to befriend them for Jesus. And he did. He found one of them eventually, befriended him for Jesus, led him to the Lord. That guy trusted enough to lead him to these other guys who had killed our friend.
Oh, man.
And to date, 11 of the guys who killed him have come to Jesus. And this is what they said. They said there was something about the way he died. When we told him to deny Jesus or die, and he said, I'll never deny Jesus. And the way he died in compassion for us that were killing him and bravery for Jesus, all of us were drawn to Jesus through that. And then it took the radical sharing the gospel, leading them to faith. So 11 of the ones who killed him have come to faith, and about 120 of their family members have come to faith. And so this is what the Lord is doing. The Lord is powerful. As people stand for Jesus, it's attractive to the persecutors. And then many of them are coming to faith in the Lord.
So they're just seeing the courage, just seeing the commitment and the love.
And they're warriors. So when someone stands for it as a warrior, when they don't revile back, when they don't attack, the love and compassion and the bravery draws them to Jesus. And so that's what we've seen is there's dreams and visions, there's friendship evangelism, there's hearing the scriptures or seeing them in your heart language, but there's also when they're killed or persecuted, the way that they act.
Peter, these testimonies they're kind of hard to believe, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, it's like the book of Acts, right?
It is.
But it's not, you talk about people having this courage, but people are still dying, and others are coming to Christ even after they die. Kind of reminds me of the story of Jim Elliot.
Yeah, true.
Right? And 55 years ago, they brought the tribal people, had killed them, and then they all came to Christ.
Yeah.
And realized. So you have an amazing work, and I'm excited to partner with you with the tablets, and maybe there's more we can do. I do get to Africa a couple times a year, so maybe I can see you, or we can invite some of our donors
try and come
who even
visit
want
us.
to go.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
It sounds a little scary being in the north. I've been there before, and we had kind of unofficial hired soldiers to protect us. We were in a dangerous area. How can we pray for you in your ministry in the north?
I would say pray for the Nigerian people. We minister to the people that are doing the atrocities, and we're ministering to the people that are being attacked and are having to deal with the loss of loved ones and their homes and everything else. So pray for the Nigerian people. Pray that the gospel will go forth in power, that they'll see it and hear it, especially with the tools that you're helping us with. Pray that they'll come to faith by the thousands, even the millions, because the Muslim people in Nigeria long for Jesus. They're just so afraid, and rightfully so. So this is just what we want. We want them to get the gospel in a way they can understand. We want them to come to know Jesus. And then in the midst of their persecution, for the Lord to comfort them, to give them strength, because as they stand for Jesus, many more of their people come to faith.
Right. So they're going to bring more to faith, and they're going to face more persecution.
Yeah.
It's kind of both are going to grow at the same time. And to state again, what percentage of the north has been reached with the gospel? Well,
the largest group that would have been reached are the houses, and that's only 3%. The Fulanis, it's 0.2. It's less than 1%. And then the main tribe of Boko Haram is even less than the Fulanis.
Really?
Yeah. And then there's many other smaller unreached people groups.
Yeah. But you're showing it works.
It does work.
Audio and video is going to work.
It's incredible. It's the most powerful.
And you have hundreds of people that have dedicating their lives to be this witness, right?
Amen.
So
that's right.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you
I
so
know you're
much.
very busy because
really
you're only here in the
appreciate it.
States.
For a little bit longer.
A little bit longer, meeting with people, so you took extra time to come visit with us.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for joining us. I will be writing about this specifically, and I hope I hope if you're listening, you're watching, you help sponsor a tablet or whatever you can help with. I hope you pray. And are we able to do a podcast when you're in the North? Can you hook up someplace?
I mean, our technology there is not great, actually. It's hard to get a good internet connection, but we could look for that. I could maybe find somewhere that has a better connection, but it would probably be pretty spotty, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we can give it a try. I definitely want to stay in touch, and I'm hoping that we can have the major language you're working in, which is the language of the Fulani, right?
Yes.
We already have Hausa.
Yeah.
And we're going to start iBible in Hausa.
Yeah.
Because many of them understand Hausa, right?
Yes.
It's just not their heart language for preaching the gospel.
That's correct. Yeah, so they understand it, but we had some friends that actually were working with the Fulani people for 20 years, no converts. But once they got the Bible in their heart language of Fulfulde, their hearts open to Jesus. So it makes a huge difference.
20 years, no fruit.
Right.
Put in their heart language.
Hundreds and thousands.
And put in audio.
Yes. Correct.
Not in print,
Correct.
in audio.
Yes.
And and now people are coming across.
Amazing how powerful it is.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. Thanks for joining. Look forward again to our next conversation. God bless.
Thank you.
The iBible Podcast with Steve Cleary, brought to you by Revelation Media. This episode was produced by Joshua Burton and Aaliyah Gonzales, with original theme music by Xperia. Subscribe to stay up to date on new episodes and iBible content, and visit the show notes for more information and resources from today's show.